whatever the case may be, freeing up that budget to bring in those different types of technology and services partners.
Okay. I love it. Do you love it, Cam? Yeah.
He's feeling the Charmony. I can tell.
Yeah. Wing It Podcasts, goosedigital.com, episode 78. This time I know it is. Who do we have?
Kevin Butler.
Chris O'Neill.
Andrew McCraith with Act On.
Michael Texani. Andrew, welcome.
Welcome. Thank
Great
you for
to
coming.
be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming up. Just had Greg on. This will be a back-to-back. We are in the same clothes and relatively the same setup.
We should have had a wardrobe change.
Yeah, just to change it up a bit. Thanks for coming up.
Absolutely. First time in Toronto, so excited to be here.
Is it?
It is.
Wow.
Beautiful day. I should come back more often.
Yeah. You
Hold you
definitely
to
should.
that, yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to get down and do any of the touristy things, or are you guys going to have to sort of stick up around your hotel and stuff?
I think that's the reason we need to come back.
Yeah, okay.
So we can get into Toronto proper. Right?
Yeah, that's it.
I think October in Toronto is the best, right? You've got hockey, basketball. It's still not freezing cold.
And I will be back in October. Big event that we're doing together with Goose.
That's right.
So excited for that.
Wicked.
Right on.
So we're here today. We got a full day. We've been here since 7 a.m., 6:30, 7 a.m. We've been putting in the hard work. We'll be here till 8 or 9 tonight. Just kidding. But we have a full day with you guys. We're working on various things, trying to drive growth as a team. I'll let you do your intro, and then we'll talk about kind of your role relative. So why don't you go ahead and do your intro?
Absolutely. So joined Act On to help take what's already a successful network of partners and really turn it into a proactive partner program. So historically, a lot of our partners we treated more as customers. And so we're flipping that around and treating partners as partners and bringing those extra levels of support and programs and initiatives so that we can help drive growth for them as much as they can help us drive growth. And so together, focusing on those joint customers that benefit both of us.
Awesome. And where were you before Act On?
So most recently, I was at Qualified, who's disrupting the website chat pipeline world. So they're a direct competitor to Drift, who's a little bit better known. And then before that, I was at Conversica, who pioneered AI for sales and marketing with their AI assistant that's been employed at thousands of companies worldwide.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I know we're pretty pumped about the pull partner conversation because, we've been, I'll use air quotes, not to diminish the partner kind of setup we've had, because it's been a very, very good partnership. But we've been an Act On partner for probably about 7 years in various capacities, and seen that sort of evolve kind of slowly. But I think your vision, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, is super exciting because we've seen, at least our experience has been, how partners can really sort of help support the adoption and usage of a platform like Act On and really get the success on it. Why don't we kick off talking a little bit about like what is a partner? Because I know you were telling us earlier, it's not 100% of the business that is supported by partners. So there's still a lot of marketing teams that are rolling their own. They're using the systems, et cetera, et cetera. So why don't we just sort of like what is an Act On partner? What do they do, and how do they help support the customers?
Absolutely. So we have the full gamut of partners. We have referral partners who drive business to Act On. We have co-sell partners where we're in there together doing joint marketing, account mapping, joint selling, driving our mutual solutions. And then we also have reseller partners. Some of them are white label, some are managed service providers, some are your classic reseller, and they provide support. All of those flavors exist across a variety of partner types. So we work with independent consultants, a lot of agencies, tech companies, even some investment portfolio groups. So all those different types, system integrators, they all bring different elements. And the way we look at it is there's 4 ways a partner could help. And in each case, it's really to augment our direct teams. So they can augment our marketing by being an advocate for us. They can augment sales by having more feet on the street. They can augment our product team by developing additional functionality. And then they can also augment our CS and professional services teams by being practitioners of our product. And some partners do one of those. Some do all four. Some do, every permutation exists. That's part of what makes partnerships fun is each one, as much as it's the same, it's a little bit of a snowflake and a little unique.
Cool. Do you want to chime in?
No, we'll keep moving.
So where I was going to go was to, I kind of get a sense, we all know what this kind of partnership could be in the various levels, but talk a little bit about maybe if we are leveraging the system, not using a partner today. So we're using Acton. We love it. What is that partner about? Like, it's obviously you touched a little bit on the vertical kind of industry specific stuff, maybe even some strategic input. Like, what does a partner do from like an end customer perspective? The value that they might be able to add.
Absolutely, and I think the foundation for it is we realize Acton may have great software, but that is not the end all be all. To realize your ultimate goals, you need more than just the software. You need the complementary software solutions, and you need the right expertise to get the most out of that investment. And so we can bring both of our technology partners where we integrate, we have joint solutions, as well as our service partners who can help you define process, work on strategy, develop content. Maybe you don't have sufficient staff to be able to run the whole set of campaigns you'd like. So we have partners that'll operate it for you as a managed service. And it's really working with you to identify what are you trying to achieve ultimately and long term, and what do you have the appetite to execute on today, and putting together that roadmap.
And I think one of the things that came up on the podcast with Greg earlier was just how, as a company's marketing operations evolves, that you can make certain decisions along the way that may or may not kind of help you kind of be efficient at the in a year or two from three from now. And he made a comment like, these systems they can kind of do a lot of things. In some ways they kind of all do similar things, but the way in which they do them can be a whole lot easier in one system than another system. And then even within that, there's 5 ways to skin the cat, for example, right? So I think part of what we've seen on the partner side is that the marketing strategy is sound, but the implementation strategy within, say, like an Acton, there might be 2 or 3 ways to do that, and depending on the way you do it, it might make things a whole lot easier for you down the road. So I think partners also play a role in saying, hey, that's a great strategy. You were going to do it this way with maybe 8 forms and that way and this way and that way. But what about if we did it this way, and you'll end up with 1 form and this, that, and the other thing, and it'll just be a little bit easier to implement. And if you're not, if you don't have that kind of deep experience, you don't necessarily know which way to do it, right?
I think that's an underrated part of what I would call complex technologies and software, of which marketing automation has certainly become. And it's this it's this idea that there's on one end of the spectrum there's the software and the vendor, and then there's the end user on the other side. And there's often a gap in the middle, like how are we actually going to put this together, and how does someone put life and shape and all kinds of detail around the promise that these systems bring. And it's not always going to be the end user that does it. They still have a day job on top of adopting and onboarding this technology. And that was always the premise of Goose, as we said, how do we bring that to life? How do we support all of what's possible with these systems and make it valuable for the customer as far as their goals and objectives?
Yeah. I know we're going to talk about kind of the different, like the kind of underpinning technology strategy that you brought up earlier, just the differences of the systems and how Acton really can compete. So we'll get to that. But partner strategy, I don't know if you had something you wanted to weigh in on, Chris, before we got to partner strategy. I heard you take a huge deep breath, and it sounded great.
I was about to
you're going to launch in.
I was just going to a practical example that I was just talking about the other day with a client who reached out to us, who has just been approved for 2 headcount in her marketing department. It's a tech firm. They've been approved for two headcount, and I kind of feel it's kind of like the old way of thinking about like adding functionality to your marketing is, and I know you have to kind of expect what the cost is going to be, so I understand that part of it. But the good part was that her view was that it's going to take me 90 to 180 days to bring these people on and actually get some functioning. Meanwhile, her targets, her attribution expectations, and her contribution
Probably
to the
before
company
then.
is not waiting for those 90 to 180.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about the partnership thing that Andrew was just sort of talking about, the different kinds of partners, and I'm kind of thinking about the way that the conversation could change right now with all the turnover that's happening in marketing departments, and the importance of yes, supplementary support, but also being able to engage the right sort of types of partners for the platforms to be able to sort of bring that quicker. So the expertise is the key sort of part of that.
You say that, it's funny. I'd like to see marketers take a bit more of a leadership role in general when they say we've been approved for a headcount. It's not so like tunnel vision. Okay, cool. I'm going to go hire the best person I can in this, but it's like, well, actually, what you have is more budget, and how do you best allocate that? Because maybe there is a time to market factor, like you're saying, or maybe it's something totally different. But I think just to say, well, we're going to go hire someone, like, well, maybe that's not the right allocation of budget in the first place, and that's going to take you a while to get there. And then once you even hire this person, good luck. And then they got to get up to speed, and then you start seeing results. Right. To your point, it might even be greater than 180 days. But I think, to me, I'd like to see them be a bit more out there as far as what's possible with that budget, and if there's better ways to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just rethinking. Like the expectations are not going to go away. Those that new revenue and that new attribution to marketing is not going to go away. You can't hold that off. And so it's like, thinking about it in terms of budget as opposed to specifically that way. That was it. That was my big breath.
Thinking about how can you get more out of what you've already invested in? Because adding a headcount's not cheap. There's a lot of cost to that.
Yep.
Can you squeeze more out of your existing technology investments? Are there functions that you've bought and aren't utilizing yet? And that's where some of our partners can help you get that full utilization. And that's a much smaller incremental cost than having to go get a whole nother person.
And a lot of times those, and we talk about this as an agency, is that may not even be a full-time resource, right? It's like, hey, you know what? We need to layer something in.
On skill set, right?
Yeah, on skill set, exactly. So it's like, hey, we need some better data analysis or data utilization or data and insights skill set. But, if I had a person full-time, they're going to be kind of twiddling their thumbs because there's only so much we are actually going to be developing here, right, in terms of making that happen. Whereas to your point, it's like you might need, 40 hours a month with a partner, right? And they can maintain that really, really well for you. Why don't we pivot a little bit into the partner strategy that you've been kind of bringing forward? Because even as we were having a coffee upstairs, you'd mentioned, we're visiting partners. Obviously, you're up here visiting us. Really happy and that you're able to do that.
Yes.
I think others, you guys are really like road showing. So maybe just develop that a little bit. Like, where is Acton going from a partner strategy? What can we kind of, what's in the current thinking in terms of developing that out?
Yeah. So at the most foundational level, we work with our partners to grow. And that just ripples through a lot of what we do. Tactical examples are, we don't have partnership account managers.
Okay.
Because in our experience, they're reactive. They celebrate being a middleman. And we want someone who's more proactive. So our version of that is the partnership growth executive. And they get measured on, did they grow the overall partnership?
Awesome.
So great if you added a bunch of revenue, but if you lost some on the other end and the net growth was zero, we're not satisfied.
Yep.
We want to see overall growth. So down to like the titling. We're working with our strategic partners, the ones that have the most potential, the ones who are leaning in with us, to create partnership growth plans. So let's write down a joint document. We both own it. What's our goal for this year? Is it to add new logos? Is it to expand logos? Go get greenfield customers? Let's just be really clear on that. And what are the 3 to 5 initiatives we need to execute on so we can realize that target? Again, not groundbreaking, just a little bit more of that proactive steps so that we can be more accountable with our partners.
We talked in the last session with Greg about perhaps the sort of underreported story, if you will, on Acton being a really solid enterprise solution or larger organization business tool, and how it's often not said that a huge chunk of Acton's customer base, in fact, already is that, and a bit more of a focus on those kinds of we'll call applications and environments that's getting plugged into. I'm wondering if you can talk about the role that you envision partners and agencies playing in some of that stronger momentum going into that kind of space.
Absolutely. So we think of it as the Acton Plus mindset, and bringing more programs to that, where we bring the same level of functionality that other large marketing automation platforms do, like an Eloqua, like a Marketo, but we can do it more cost effectively with the lower total cost of ownership. Not just software, but the number of people you need to run those systems is much lower with Acton. So for the same budget, you can bring on Acton, plus you've freed up budget to go do more marketing initiatives.
Right.
So you can bring in other software platforms. Maybe you're ready to go do ABM with a 6sense or a Demandbase or a Rollworks. Or you want to do more with the sales acceleration platforms like an Outreach or a SalesLoft. You want to do more paid search. You want to do more advertising.
Events. Now that we're going back online. Right?
Yeah. You want to get more creative with your content. You need to do this big refresh.
Videos.
Videos. All those other things that are on your laundry list. Because I haven't met anyone who runs marketing that has no ideas.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, here's the 30 other things we want to do.
Not a very good marketer then.
But we just don't have the time or money. And so with Acton, we can help you free that up. So now you get your marketing automation with Acton plus all these different offerings from our partners.
And again, that conversation we just had on mobilizing budgets and being more efficient with how we think about using them.
And I think total cost of ownership sometimes, and we kind of tried to make this a little clearer a little bit on the last one, but I think maybe since we've talked about that total cost of ownership being a really good way to look at it, that this isn't about the license. I think, like, yes, the license might be less, for example, right? But I think what you're really hitting on here is that, there is a cost component of running some of those other systems at the enterprise level, since we're on that thread, that oftentimes gets overlooked, right? And that leads to obviously more money to be spent on maintaining that platform, but to your point, taking away from other areas that you may want to invest in. I think another thing that we talked about on the last one was just being more agile. If you have a system that, when we're talking about total cost of ownership, I think we peg it at least half the overhead as some of those systems that we've been talking about, at least half. Like when we go through our exercises using Acton to some of those other systems, it's half. That actually leads to more that you can actually do within your system, right? So you can be more agile, you can launch more programs, you can do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that is a huge piece, especially in today's economic climate, right? Like people are now looking at this being like, hey, the gravy train is a little bit, maybe not as nice, as full as it used to be. So yeah, we're going to start to cut back some of these tools or make sure we're using them really well, right?
But also, marketers need to be able to do more. One, they have to drive more value, and I think there's many places they have to do that now. Emerging channels, shifting buying cycles, things like that. I think they can't be in one single tool doing one single thing because it's an old system or whatever. They just can't anymore. I know, Andrew, you're
and I would add
all these elements in it, but it happens to be powered on an instance of our marketing network. They don't know that. They're not really, they don't see that, right? So again, for an agency to be able to spin that type of stuff up, or a partner to be able to spin those types of instances up and get moving very quickly, it's an under talked about thing in the partner network for sure. And being a partner of other platforms, we know this, right? It's not straightforward to go, and I don't want to necessarily bash or name names, but we all know basically every other platform out there. You can't go to them and just be like, hey,
it's a strength of Acton's.
Can I point and click and add something and kind of get moving here? It's like, no, let's talk about it. Let's get a license in place. And then it's like, well, there's no technology to kind of make that easy, right? Et cetera, et cetera.
So either they don't do it, or they do it by throwing bodies at it.
Yeah.
And that's where the hidden costs come in.
That's right.
So it's either an opportunity cost or it's a labor cost, but either way, it's a cost and a burden that's keeping you from other stuff.
And in that case, it's a time to market thing too.
Right.
Which is, I guess, part of your opportunity cost comment, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a prime example of where we help you free up that budget so you can go do more.
Yeah. So what are some of the, as you've been maybe going through the partner network, partner kind of team and when I say team, the actual partner environment and doing the meetings, like what are some things that maybe prospective partners or even current partners may want to kind of learn about from kind of those experiences so far?
Yeah, so I think one of the great, benefits of Acton is we have been partnering for over 10 years. We have over 100 partners. So we know how to do all the basic administrative and run the process and work with partners. So it's not new to us, which is great. And what we're getting better at now is how do we not just be responsive, but how do we get proactive with you? As we were talking about before, having a partnership growth plan, creating partnership growth funds so that we can bring money to the table as well. Bring our expertise, because we've been doing this for a long time. We know marketing automation very well. So helping our partners think through how they can integrate marketing automation into their offerings, so we can bring a true, turnkey solution. And I think what I've seen the most since I got involved with Acton is they are really enjoying the way we view partners as value add and critical, not as a nice to have.
Right.
It's not we're going to wait and hope you just send us a bunch of business, which is how a lot of companies view partners.
Yep.
My view is we're driving just as much business to our partners as they're bringing to us. And so the partners who get that, they get excited. They hear our mantra of Charmony, which is channel harmony, all brought together. We're going to do what's best for the partner, and we're asking partners to do what's best for us. Yep. And that doesn't mean we always get what either of us wants, but it means the partnership overall is the most successful.
Well, I know we've, in this relationship, it's been good, and I'm super excited about, like when I say that, I meant Acton, but I'm super excited to see how we develop this together over the next couple years, because, I know Kev's talked a lot about the role that the partner actually needs to play, and I think that's challenging. I think we're extremely lucky to have, folks like Kev and folks like Mark and even Chris and others that, really understand that, well, we need to step up and actually provide, even if it's something as simple as like marketing support and these types of elements, right? That, there's a commitment that the partner has as well. And I think that's a lot of what you guys are sussing out and looking for, which ones are, when you talk about being proactive on your side, well, which ones are, they don't all need to be proactive. All the partners don't need, but which ones are going to be proactive? Which ones can we identify that, they're actually going to throw a bunch of like, elbow grease into this too, and we're gonna kind of together look at taking down some marketing and selling and all this kind of stuff, right?
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that. That's something I really strongly believe in. Is we as a partner to you, we can't just come to you with our handouts saying, feed us or whatever. Like, we have to be bringing value, and I think that's how you're going to separate yourselves from other agencies and partners. But that's not a relationship if it's a one-way just asking for things. And I think that's how we very much view this, is like, we have to help you. Like, maybe you don't know everything there is to know about insurance and financial services use cases. It's our job to help explain that and tell that story and to fill in that gap I was referencing before. Like, and then, the other side is you'll come to us and say, we really need this expertise now that we understand it exists. I think that's a perfect harmony or marriage, right? I strongly dislike the idea that a partner would just sit there and wait for something to be given to them. Like, we have to take it to you and add value to the relationship.
Yeah, and again, it's a small word thing, but we've been trying to talk more about partnerships than partners.
Right, yeah.
Partners feels very one-directional.
Right.
Yes.
A partnership, it's two-way.
Yeah.
And that's really, and sometimes a partnership is more one-way.
Sure.
But, we're looking to lean into the ones that are two-way, where we can both help each other. Takes a little more work, but they're also stickier, more productive, and we know that's what's going to drive the best outcomes for our mutual customers long term.
That's exactly. Yeah.
And when that happens, everyone's happy at that point.
Yeah. How do you see, and maybe we'll anything else that you want to add, but I think we can kind of end off on this trend as well if you like. But how do you see the brand marketing playing a role in sort of supporting some of those partner deals? Maybe the ones that are not the marketing program ones that I was explaining earlier, where Acton's really under the hood and nobody is aware of what technology is driving it, where the customer is aware of the tech, and maybe you're up against, a Marketo and a HubSpot, and now the partner is also in there with an Acton. How do you guys view that? Because I know that, that can't be easy. I know Greg mentioned that, some well-known platforms out there, although I think Acton's pretty well known, but these other ones where they've really kind of pushed into this brand element, which can confuse the marketer that's making the decision. How do you see that your own brand marketing playing a role in supporting the selling through partners and just sort of the growth through partners?
Yeah, and I'll be the first to admit, and it was part of what got me excited about Acton, is we know that we're not well recognized in the market. There's no pretense there.
Right.
And that self-awareness is part of what got me excited to join.
Yeah, that's important. You're
Because
right.
that's kind of step one.
Yep.
And it's exactly where our partners are so valuable, because we're going to go into opportunities against those bigger firms and bring our partners with us and show them this is how you can get the true solution you're after. You don't need to go get this overly packaged all-in-one one-stop shop over here just so you have one vendor. And the pieces aren't really what you want.
They're not deep enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have the same functionality as all those other marketing automation vendors. Plus we have Marketing Network. Plus we can bring in, the ABM specialists, and we can bring in the data guys, and we can bring in the services guys. We can bring in all those pieces, and we do it as a package. And then, when we've done that well, the customers realize they're getting not just a sales guy. They're getting a whole team of people that are really focusing on their problems, and are going to get them everything they need to succeed long term.
And that depth, I think, one of the things that we say this too, they can kind of all do the same thing, right? Marketing Network's definitely a unique piece, and there's some other ones in Acton for sure that are unique. But I would also say that ability to go to do the complex things easily, a lot easier than what you can get out of some of those other systems. And frankly, there's some things where you just can't do them in some of the platforms, right? So now you're down to maybe 2 versus an Eloqua or a Marketo or something, but you can do it 5 times less complex or more efficient within an Acton, right? So I think that's also a key concept for partners, who may want to be billing a ton of revenue around, if it's Marketo, we're going to be billing, 10 times the revenue because it takes 10 times as long. But is that really kind of what's best for the customer, right? If you can solve that need, if you can get that done, and now to your point, well, maybe that means they can bolt on another piece here, and you're a better overall value-added partner. And I know that's always a struggle for SIs or partners. It's hey, with that system, we're able to bill 10 times as much. But, at the end of the day, the jig is up, I think, for some of this.
I think that's exactly right. There aren't companies out buying those big legacy platforms that come with more services dollars than software.
Right.
They're savvier to that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of why, as much as we've worked with SIs, it's not the old school SIs.
That's right.
That are just looking for big $1 million install projects.
Yeah.
They're bringing more to the table in terms of strategy, process. Maybe they're financial services. There's still companies that have bespoke CRMs. And so there's other types
100%.
of work as opposed to how do I set up this overly complicated marketing automation platform. We make that easier so you can go do all those other things more effectively.
Awesome. So I think we're close to being wrapped on this. This is super exciting. Is there anything else we want to layer in, guys, on the partner side, or Andrew, from your side, your perspective?
Partner on. That's all I got to say.
Partner on. You've had a couple of good ones. Acton Plus, Partner on. What was that one?
Charmony.
Yeah. Well aware that everyone else doesn't wake up and think about Acton. All I do is wake up and think about partners. All I'm trying to do is be that little earworm, get a little bit of mind share. When I draw my org chart, I've got 1,000 people on it.
Sure.
Most of them are not on my team or even in my company.
Right.
But I view everyone at Goose Digital as part of my team. And I got to fight to motivate and remind you of why should I be thinking and talking about Acton.
Awesome.
So anything we can do to stay top of mind or even near top of mind, we'll put out there.
That's awesome. Well,
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah,
today.
thanks
This is
for
great.
being
Excited.
Thanks,
This was great. Thanks for having me.
awesome.